All right, everybody, welcome back for another episode of Let's Talk About It, Student Counseling and Friends. This week's friend is my personal friend, Shariffa Wip from SMDP. And like always, this is the podcast, Out of Student Counseling Services through UAB. In Student Counseling Services, we are still open and still providing services to students, all virtually. So if you're in need of counseling services, please reach out to us, contact us through our website, go through the patient portal to set up your first appointment, and you can be placed with a counselor quickly and start seeing your counselor within the next week or two. So there are no wait times right now, as opposed to what it would be like if we were in normal operations. So enough of that. Let's focus on the guest. And like I said, the guest is the friend for this week and my personal friend, Sharifa, the homie. So Sharifa, introduce yourself to the people and what you do on campus.
Well, thanks for having me, Herb. I know when people get introduced, the first thing they say is thank you for having me, but I do appreciate you sharing your space with me. So thank you. I'm Shariffa Wip. I work in student multicultural and diversity programs. I have worked for UAB off and on for about 10 to 11 years. And I work with international mentors. Well, I have an intern that works with IM primarily. And then the Blazer Male Excellence Network and the Black Student Awareness Committee.
All right. Oh, it's committee. I always thought it meant council. So bad.
Committee. Committee.
I just tell people Black Student Awareness Council. Rolls off the tongue.
At least it starts with a C. Could be coalition.
And just so you all know, I am a recent spring initiate of the BMEN family. I finally earned my stripes through years of work.
What's your line number?
6. That's my line number. I mean, it was a 6 20 years ago. It's a 6 now.
Oh. Okay, so you're
recent. I got a choice.
You don't have the information. Run me back that shirt.
If I got a choice, it's gonna be 6. But so tell us, like, what are y'all doing for students right now? When I say y'all in the country, it's all good. But what are y'all doing right now for students, considering that we're all virtual at this point?
How are we staying in touch with students?
Yeah. Like, what's the
Zoom?
plan?
I mean, Zoom and phone calls, Zoom phone calls, group me, text messages, Instagram, Facebook, whatever we can do outside of seeing each other face to face. We pretty much are doing that. Emails, but mostly Zoom and phone calls, and then after that it's group me and text messages. Yeah.
All right. So what's it been like for the students? Like, what have they been telling you all with just everything? I mean, at first it was this COVID, and now it's that pandemic to another pandemic of racial injustice. So what are you hearing from the students?
Well, as far as COVID is concerned, I think it was just the fear of the unknown, or the being uncomfortable with the unknown, not knowing when this will be over, or if we return to campus, or when we return to campus, what will that look like? Mm-hmm. And then with Birmingham's numbers, or Jefferson County numbers climbing, I think there is a growing uneasiness about their safety once they get back to campus, because they might be coming from an area with which the numbers are declining, but they're coming which the numbers are increasing day by day. Mm. So those are the conversations, and I don't have a ton of answers for them. I know that the campus is doing a lot to, or the folks on our leadership is doing a lot to create what am I calling? Not standards, but create best practices for social distancing and mask wearing, and checking your temperature and monitoring your health and stuff like that. But it's questions like, what will residence life look like? What will classes look like? What will visiting offices look like, and what will programming look like. And so I don't have clear answers for them on that. I think we will know more once everybody gets back to campus and we can kind of see what's what. So
Yeah.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's like the move. Like it's a collective emoji. Like, I don't know. It's like, and just like they want to know, we want to know too. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
across the board.
I would have never guessed that we would be where we are today. When I first heard of COVID, it was definitely on a whole nother continent. And I was thinking, wow, it's so unfortunate, but it made its way here so fast. And it made its way. It's like every week it gets closer and closer. Once upon a time, I didn't know anybody who had been affected by COVID. And now I know somebody firsthand who has been affected, like literally just recovered. He lost his mother, but he just recovered from 20 some days on a ventilator. And so it gets closer and it gets more real.
Yeah.
So it becomes a whole lot scarier.
Yeah. Yeah. A therapist friend of mine who posted on Facebook Friday, not this past Friday, but the Friday before, that he was diagnosed with COVID. I shot him a text, what's going on? And he let me know. He's like, yeah, I feel fine. He's like, just some stomach aches or whatever. And then by Tuesday, he was in the hospital on oxygen. And so we were texting Thursday, and he was like, man, it's a Tuesday. I didn't know if I was going to make it. Like, that was his exact words. And knowing this individual, as long as I have, that's hard for him to say stuff like that. He's an older, stoic individual, to say the least. And so for him to say that was pretty telling. And then when I texted him, last conversation we had, it was getting better, and then it wasn't, and then the doctors were considering putting him back in ICU. I texted him the next day to see what the update was, and haven't heard anything. So, my sister-in-law was had COVID, and it's one of those things where like it seems so far away, and then like it just gets closer and closer and closer till it's right in front of you. And then, of course, you think about yourself and staying safe. And then, of course, you see people who take a different approach to it and decide to manage it the way they choose to. Like, yeah, somebody I work with was said that somebody basically heckled them for having a mask on while at the beach, and it was just like, so people are definitely taking different approaches to how they manage this.
Yeah.
So I can imagine, if that's where we're living, then the students are living it too from their own lens. So when the parents or family members are being affected by it, and then being on campus and what that looks like.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think about it like, how parents send their kids to daycare and their kids come back with colds all the time, or even pick up like bad habits.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm not speaking that into existence, but to me, that's what it feels like the fall is going to be.
Yeah.
Coming home with a cold, or you come home, all of a sudden you biting and you never used to bite before. Mm-hmm. It's like, or it might not be like that. I don't know. It's just the unknown. And since we don't know, we guess. So.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. We don't know, we guess. We call that mind reading. Good old counseling office. In the biz, mind reading. But so from COVID to, racial injustice and protesting, I know students are participating. And then of course they're taking it all in, they're impacted by it. Like, what are those conversations like?
I haven't had a ton of conversations with the collective group about it. I've had individual conversations with a handful of students. So even tonight, I have a meeting with the BSAC executive board. And so we probably will spend some time unpacking, the events of the last month, or even last weekend.
Yeah.
But the students I've talked to, it's a range of emotions: disappointment, fear, anger, cautiousness, pride. I mean, there's just a range of emotions that they feel. It just depends on what part of everything that we're talking about, right? So there's this resurgence. I don't know that it ever went away, but there's this like outward Black Lives Matters, I'm Black and I'm proud happening right now that I'm sure they appreciate being a part of, because every Black is not celebrated in every aspect of their life. Mm-hmm. But we're also being overrun with these messages. Every company right now feels like Black Lives Matter. Ooh, and I'm just like, at what point are y'all going to admit that you just don't want to be that one company that didn't send out an email that say Black Lives Matters? Yeah. So that's do I really trust you? Because, your policies, your leadership, the product you serve, all that stuff, like, do Black lives really matter? Or are we just making sure, or is this just lip service? So we've got a range of conversations. And it's been, I look forward to seeing what the reactive programming looks like in the fall, to make sure that students are reasoning through all of their emotions about what has happened. When I was growing up, I remember vividly when Rodney King was beaten. I remember when the 4 cops were acquitted. Yep. I remember in Riverside, California, when a young woman was sleeping in her car and the police killed her. And, there are all these things that I remember when OJ ran. So like, I remember, and these were like on many different levels. They were life-changing events centered around race, or our ideals of police, or, all kind of stuff. I remember that. And then we went through a lull a little bit. And now this generation is really seeing, something that we'll talk about this for years to come. And so they're seeing it and I'm seeing it again. And it's just like, wow, I remember this from when I was a child. So I can't believe that we are back here again in the same daggone place.
Same place. I was talking to somebody recently and they said they were alive when Dr. King was assassinated. Wow. And lived in, I want to say Selma. I grew up in Selma. And they equated where we are right now to life at that point in time and following that point in time, like immediately, like the widespread, expression of oppression and through protest and riot and whatnot. And so, it is definitely a unique time because, like you said, I remember being in school and we had it televised when OJ was acquitted. And my teacher literally ran out the class cussing, screaming, and crying. And you saw like 2 TV screens. You saw like black people cheering like, we just got the biggest reward ever. And then like, white people super mad. And so then Rodney King and, seeing that take place, because that was like the first video thing. Mm-hmm. That's just an individual with his camcorder.
Mm-hmm.
And then out of all those officers, nobody went to jail. Nobody was, they claimed they were threatened for their lives and he was going to reach for their gun and all this stuff. And so to see, where we are now, the thing is, though, it's like everybody's recording. And with George Floyd, man, I heard, I was watching Jamel Hill, Unbothered. Mm-hmm. And she was talking to, I want to say Regina King. And she was like, you were able to see into that cop's eyes and that he did not care whether George Floyd lived or died. Right? It's like you could just see into his eyes. And like what we're getting right now is just so unique. And it's not that it's new. There's nothing new about it. But like just the widespread impact. And I look at it in like a few different categories. Like, so you have George Floyd, then you have Breonna Taylor, who doesn't get enough coverage, and how she was killed. And then you have Brother Aubrey, who was running through the neighborhood, happened to go into an unfinished house that several people have been shown going into, and he was hunted down and killed in the street. And then you have the guy in Central Park, where the lady changed her entire voice tone and, choked the dog to basically make it seem like she was being attacked. and you see these 4 separate incidents that are all connected and videotape while the world is on pause. And it's like perfect mixture of like, there's no escaping it. There's no room to justify it. There's no room to say, well, this person was that, that person was this, yada, yada, yada. To find ways to justify somebody dying. There's no way through it. Mm-hmm. And here we are. I mean, we're, some time into this, and it's, still going. Mm-hmm. And it needs to still go. And it's unique, man. It's like, and I tell you from my conversations with some students, because I read this article about the psychology of Black men trying to appear unthreatening, or less threatening. And I talked to some students who was like, I figured myself to be not a threat. Very polite, I'm nice, physically I'm not intimidating. And then they saw the guy in Central Park bird watching with a Harvard degree and binoculars, and how that worked out for him. And it made them look at themselves like there's nothing I can do. Mm-hmm. Not be looked at as a threat. Mm-hmm. And that's a tough realization of, to talk through with a young person.
Yep. Yeah. The idea that we would have to walk around with a smile on our face, showing our teeth all the time, and overly chummy just so that we can live is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And these ideas that people have of you before that you even open your mouth or they ever even have an interaction with you, it totally speaks to how they will treat you once they have this interaction with you, or avoid the interaction with you. I mean, it's ridiculous, but it really is a reality for Black people that I feel like has to be acknowledged. And people don't want to acknowledge the fact that they're unreasonably scared of Black people. There's no justification for this irrational fear of Black people. And how do you guide people to living their authentic lives when they then have to turn around and do code switch to live, right? It's irritating to walk and someone say, smile. Well, why? So I could be walking around here and my teeth just be dry so you feel good? Like, mind your business, I'm minding mine. When you acknowledge me and say good morning, I'm going to acknowledge you and say good morning back. But this requirement to smile so that people feel safe is silly. Let me tell you, that joker that kneeled on George Floyd, I'm sure that he smiled all the time. Mm-hmm. He's still a killer. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mark Furman and all them 4 officers that beat Rodney King, let me tell you, I know they know how to high five and smile or whatever. They're still killers. So cut the nonsense. Like this idea that if you're smiling, you're safe or whatever, I think we should just cut all that. Cut all that.
Yeah, this is in that article about the psychology behind, men doing things that appear less threatening. This guy was like, when he would walk the hallway, he would whistle as a way to indicate that
he was coming.
He was a nice guy and he was coming. And I'm just like, man, like so subtle, but then the reasoning behind it, and still doesn't work,
No, it does not.
Yeah.
It does not. It does not. So then you have to just negotiate in yourself. Okay, I know that if I do this could be the reaction, and am I willing to take the risk? Mm-hmm. I have to be very conscious when I get in the elevator to not look down. When I'm in a group of in the elevator with people like I might not recognize, might not know, I have to be conscious about not looking down and almost trying to make myself invisible, even though at 6 feet with locks I can't be. But just to avoid any kind of potential for foolishness, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm acutely aware.
You don't want to be that Black person.
Yeah.
But you are that Black person, period.
I am acutely aware when I'm in the elevator, I'm acutely aware who gets on the elevator with me.
Yep.
the elevator in our parking deck has a camera in it, which I'm like, I'm more thankful for than anybody else that probably gets in the elevator with me. Because if it wasn't, I would be taking the stairs pretty much all the time because I'm just constantly aware of my surroundings. Like I was telling somebody the other day, it's just, you're constantly playing defense. You know, offense controls the ball and the pace and the tempo. So on defense, you're just constantly responding, reacting, trying to guess what they're going to do before they do it, to be in the right place before they get there. And that's a position that we're just accustomed to having to be in. And that, you know, it's those layers of like injustice and privilege and stuff that go beyond just what's happening right now. So like, police injustice, you're killing people in the streets, you're unfairly policing certain groups of people in areas differently than others. And then there's like, and that's it. And there's all this other stuff that exists too. Like, this is just a hot button discussion, and it needs to be a discussion. But then there's all these other areas that it exists as well. And it's like, you know, you keep uncovering these rocks, you're going to keep finding, well, it's here and it's here and it's here. And that's the importance of like keeping things going, is that it exists in so many areas.
Yeah.
People that, you know, be willing to jump into these conversations and leaning to these discussions or do the research on their own, more importantly, to kind of, you know, to see where they fit into it, to see where they have benefited, and then also can maybe be an ally for change. Because it exists in so many ways, man. So many ways. So tell me, you know, I'm a counselor and this is through counseling services. So I ask everybody, what are you doing to take care of yourself?
I am very cautious about what I'm looking at on social media. So I have two Instagram pages, and I use, one's private, one's public, but the public one is more related around fashion. So I find myself looking at, if I want to engage on social media, I use that one because I'll be looking at clothes more than I'll be looking at like life for real. So just myself busy with a few things around the house, and you know, I'm still reasoning through the recent events. Like, I'm still trying to wrap my head around everything that has happened both nationally and in Birmingham. It's been very heavy. And so I have probably withdrawn a little bit. I haven't participated in any protests, which is not common for me. But I haven't really said a ton. I've shared some stuff on my story, but I've admittedly not done enough to, but I'm trying to reason, like, I know right and wrong is wrong. I like know how I feel about it, but I'm worried, you know, thinking about what my interaction looks like, and also what do some of my relationships look like? You know, do I really trust the people that smile in my face? You know, do I trust the people that I come in contact with the most in my day? Do I trust their words? Can I, you know, do I believe what they have maybe said or presented themselves to be? Because this has, you know, not only have we seen just some blatant stuff, but folks' silence has been a lot. And I know that some people are silent because they just don't know or whatever. But again, I'm mind reading right now. So when I don't see, you know, I feel like I live in two worlds. One world is like, I can't believe this injustice. I'm tired of it. I'm worn out. And it's like, you're overwhelmed with it. The other half is like, I baked a cake this week and I bought some new shoes and I went out for a run in the sky. And you're like, wait a minute, do we see the same thing? Like, you know? Yeah. So just working through all of that. And so I do whatever I write a lot of cards. So I'm on this campaign to write these sorors for my chapter, especially the Delta Deers and stuff. I, you know, try to sit down and just write. So doing a lot of writing, cleaning out of my closet. Those are things that make me happy. Working out a little bit, connecting, I had a really, 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 really good conversation with two of my students the other day. And the interesting part is we were really supposed to do like a 15-minute catch up on preparing for a meeting.
Yeah.
But it turned into like an hour and a half conversation just about like life and sharing experiences. And that was really helpful. I didn't even know I needed it, but they were such a blessing to me in that time. So yeah, sometimes, sleep has been interesting, but I think it's because my mind has been racing.
Yeah.
And when I do sleep, it's like I have these really, really, really vivid dreams. So that let me know that I need to be protecting like what I see. So I never saw George Floyd die. I didn't see Rashad die.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that. Reading about the protesters and they're getting the eyes shot out and they're being beaten and stuff. Like, it's not that I don't care. It is that I mentally cannot handle seeing that. I don't have to see somebody die to know that it was horrible. And I don't have to see somebody brutalized to know that it was raw and real. Yeah. So just protecting that part of me and making sure that I keep the safest people around me possible, and then just kind of keep the others at a distance. So there's some conversations I don't want to have. There's some things I don't want to hear. And so got to keep them at a distance.
Yeah.
Yep.
And, you helped me right there, because I haven't seen the George Floyd murder. And at one point I was like, I think I got to just sit down and watch it, but I couldn't. I saw Eric Gardner. I was like,
I didn't see that either.
Yeah, I saw that one. I'm just like, I'm trying to think, like, other than experiencing, I guess, being more connected with the hurt that's out there, if there is a way for me to be more connected with it, like, is there a way for, do I need to watch it? And I can't. I guess, like, I don't.
Well, I think I appreciate social media and these camera phones, because nobody would believe it if the story was being told by certain people, right?
Yes.
But I also believe that we could potentially become very desensitized to watching people die. And that shouldn't be the norm. We shouldn't get desensitized to like seeing people get shot and killed by police or being choked out by police. But if you see it all the time, it could potentially make you feel, listen, when I first started working at Fox 6, I would listen to the scanners and I would hear like domestic and I would be like, oh, what? Such and such hit such and such. Oh my goodness. And then after a month, it was like in air one ear and out the other. I became so desensitized to hearing certain things, even though this is people's reality. I don't want to do that. I don't want people to look at people, period, to look at people, Black people being killed like it's the norm.
Yeah.
I want to
working on
such
Facebook,
a shocking outrage that when it happens, we all unite together to throw on these consequences to these killers. Mm-hmm. But if it's just like some people are like, oh, again. Yeah, no, that's heavy. Yeah. That's really heavy.
Yeah, you don't want to be able to just scroll right past it, because that's what
you don't want to be able to scroll right past it. Yeah. But let me tell you, because it happens so much, we become desensitized.
And there are times when it's like I've had to catch myself and be like, hold on, don't go past that. Read it. You know, it's easy to just, because it happens so much and it shows up on your timeline so much. Before we jumped on this call, I saw a video of a guy who was going to get his paycheck from work. And in the parking lot, the police decided to question him and, ask him what was his address, where did he live, what was he doing? And he was having a calm conversation. Then one cop who had a different agenda became very aggressive verbally with him. And the guy, and then they, of course, tagged him to the ground. The guy punched him in the head, and it's just like, man, how?
Because there's no consequence. Because you could do these things. It's like there are people that can do these things and nothing happens to them. They keep their job, they get a paid vacation, and it's set and done.
Paid administrative leave.
You're sitting here, you're at home, you kicking it. It's COVID anyway. Who wants to be out in the streets anyway?
Yeah.
There's no consequence.
So you're right. How much we consume is so important. And I put this out there as far as something I just thought of when I was just talking to somebody, but finding that balance of activism and self-care, what that looks like for you. And it can't be all activism and no self-care. Sometimes it's okay to pull away. There are more soldiers in the fight besides you, and if you take a break, that doesn't mean it's going to stop. And it's important to recognize that and then take care of yourself and do the things you enjoy to do, because also at times like this, you can end up feeling guilty for finding enjoyment. It's like I should be stoked at all times. I should be on go at all times. And it's it's good to go have a virtual happy hour with your friends. It's good to go to the park and go jogging. It's good to go walk your dog. It's good to go work out or do whatever it is you want to do. It's good just to be like, you know what? This video is funny and I'm going to share it as well. Because I find myself, and we follow each other on social media, I share a lot. And here in this particular, where we are right now, more than ever when it comes to about the disparities. And last night, I believe, I was like, man, I need to watch a comedy. It was just so much stuff coming at me. And then I saw somebody on Facebook that I went to high school with that came with the foolishness. And I was just like, it just penetrates, that for some people, this is not going to ever mean anything.
Yeah.
And it's not about them. And it's not about them. Policy take care of that, not, Facebook arguments. So yeah, it's definitely, it has its heavy moments. But the important thing is that we do things to take care of ourselves. And you're right, have the connections. Good conversations, but then good connections with people. And yeah. So yeah, that's all I can think of, man. I really wanted to have this conversation with you. I wanted to be authentic.
Let me share this with you. Let me share this with you, her. So part of the reason that I struggled with what happened with George Floyd is because I think I mentioned this to you. I started mentioning to you in a conversation. Is when I was in high school, I went to an all-white high school in Yucaipa, California. And I think I was only one of 4 Black students out of 400 in our graduating class. So everybody knew me. If it wasn't personality, it was just, Anyhow, it had to have been either my sophomore or junior year in high school. It's probably anyway, it doesn't matter. I was skipping class and I was with 2 or 3 other friends, probably out in between class. Now, there was a basketball coach who's also a Spanish teacher. Her name is Liz Callbreath. I'm calling her out because I hope that when we post this, I'm going to tag her so she can hear this. Okay. Yeah. So Liz Callbreath was also an ESL teacher. She taught Spanish. She's a white woman, blonde hair, blue eyes. She and her husband taught at the school. She's a basketball coach. Or I don't know, blonde hair, blue eyes. I know she had blonde hair at the time. She's probably gray now. But anyway, she was a Spanish teacher, and I would argue that because she taught Latinx students, she probably feels like I'm absolutely not racist because look at me, I speak fluent Spanish and I'm teaching these students and this, that, and the third. Okay. So one day we are out in between classes, me and several friends, we're in the quad, and of course she's doing her job and says, "What are you doing out?" And I'm like, "We out, whatever," giving her a smart remark. And she's like, "We'll get to class." Now, I didn't like her energy. And to embarrass her and put on a show for my friends while she was talking, I said something smart and I turned around to walk away from her and she pushed me from behind. So I turned around and said, you better watch yourself. And then I went on about my business. We all went to where we were supposed to be. 15 minutes later, the police come get me out of class. She is crying hysterically because she is scared because I threatened her.
Oh, wow.
Now, what I didn't tell you about this white city that I grew up in, okay, is that from the time I was in junior high, first of all, we didn't celebrate Black History Month in junior high until I started the Black History Month program. We didn't do it in high school. I was the only one doing a little display in the library for Black History Month or doing anything, okay? The school didn't support it at all. We did stuff for, we were in California, we did stuff for the Mexican students during Cinco de Mayo, whatever, but okay. So I participated on it with volunteer work. I volunteered for, did stuff with United Way. We did these programs called Hang with the Deputy. I was recognized in the newspaper for my work in the teen center. I was part of this teen board that would meet and do leadership classes. And I'm thinking these are all things that people would know. She's a great student. Like, look at all this stuff she's doing. Like, she's involved. She fundraised so we could get this teen center. She's in the paper. She's doing all this, that, and the third. She's involved in all these clubs. But in that moment, the very people, the very programs that I was in with the sheriff department, now I'm thinking it's because they think I'm a leader, but really it was because they looked at me and thought I was an at-risk youth. So they wanted me to look at the police and know they were good people and this, that, and the third. Those were the same people who knew me from my work, because the city is this big, who came to the school to file a report because she was scared of me, even though she was the aggressor. She pushed me from behind. Now, the thing was, I don't know why they didn't arrest me. To this day, I still don't know. I call it favor. I don't know why they didn't arrest me, but they did put it on my record. They said, if you can keep yourself out of trouble till you're 18, this will be washed off your record like it never happened.
Yeah.
And I never, ever talked to her again after that day. I would see her and it was like, hi, Sharifa. It was like, I didn't hear nothing. Because that day I could have had a situation just like George Floyd, accused of scaring this woman. They saw me, I was much taller than her. I've been 6 feet probably since the 11th grade, if not 5'10", close to 6 feet since the 11th grade. So I was shorter, she was shorter than me. But they looked at me and they looked at her. Nobody asked the witnesses what happened. Nobody asked me what happened. They simply came down with, you did this to her, she's scared of you. And I never forgave her. And the fear of it, knowing that her fear could have gotten me killed. Her fear could have changed the whole trajectory of my life. It really could have. They could have arrested me. We wouldn't even be having this conversation today. My life could have been totally different because of her fear. She never acknowledged that she pushed me. Of course I was out of class. But do the two go hand in hand? Since when does a teacher put their hands on a student, right? So when I went back for my something reunion. Anyway, some of my family still lived there and I had gone back and I had coffee with my 6th grade teacher. Before I went back, I said to myself, I'm gonna sit down with Liz and we're gonna talk about this situation. Maybe I can hear her side of it and let her know how it affected me all these years, that I still think about that day when she cried and said she was scared of me. 14 years old, 15 years old, that she still cried and said, never been violent, never fought, never whatever, but okay. So the teacher, my 6th grade teacher tells Liz, oh, Sharifa's looking for you. Liz is like, listen, if she's not on, I don't have time for any negativity. So, I have a lot going on in my life. And I'm thinking, what more do you have going on in your life that you could not right this wrong? Because I was at that time open to a conversation and I needed an apology from her. I absolutely needed acknowledging an apology from her. Yeah. And then, so I was telling my 6th grade teacher the story. She was telling me how she always felt sorry for me, being the only Black student and this, that, and the third. And then when I told her the story, she said, well, Sharifa, that was a threat. I see it as a threat. And the conversation was over. For me, the conversation was over.
Yeah.
You didn't hear me. You're not listening. You are just, and so the other day when all of this was, jumping off, I posted something and she commented under the post, I support you or whatever. And I told her, listen, I could have been George Floyd. Your colleague pushed me and nobody listened to me. Not even you.
Even after the fact.
Didn't know what to do. I'm sorry?
Even after the fact, after you told her.
Even after the fact.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that they can reason that she was wrong.
Yeah.
They can never reason through her being wrong. And as it has totally affected the way I deal with folks in a certain way, because no matter what I do, no matter if you're the aggressor, as long as you say you're afraid, people don't believe you. I mean, of course, why not? Look at her.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
Yeah.
So Liz Callbreath, I imagine how many other students she has done this to, that she has thrown her fear around or made them uncomfortable or whatever. And when they reported it, nobody believed them. I hope she didn't do it to another student. I hope I was her one lesson in life. I'll take that L. But I hope she didn't do it to anybody else. But she truly used this whole, I'm scared. She was crying and all this carrying on. But then with that same mouth, tried to say hello to me later on. What?
Yeah.
The police came, Herb. They could have easily taken me from that school because nobody heard a thing I said. They would not even be open to anybody else's version of the events. All they heard is that she was scared. That is absolutely scary. When I saw that man being accused of a counterfeit $20 bill,
$20 bill
that cost him his entire life.
Let me tell you,
His family, his children will mourn him in a way because somebody made a fatal error. Several people made fatal errors. And that could have been me. It's like everything welled right back up in me when all that happened. There are millions of people that said, oh my goodness, that could have been me. And that's totally unfair. To live like that is absolutely unfair. It's ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
And the $20 bill, I worked at a gas station in college. Somebody gave me a $100 bill that was counterfeit one time, and when the police came and I pointed the guy out, I saw that same guy again a few days later.
Uh-huh. And he probably knocked you over the head because you called the police on him, and then what?
Yeah, it's just like, a $20 bill. They've tried everything.
But see, that person was guilty.
He was on this.
I mean, it shouldn't have cost them their life, but I wasn't guilty. And neither was George Floyd.
Yeah. And, the lady in Central Park. And just think about if that guy had not recorded that.
Liz was the lady in Central Park.
He was.
Liz was absolutely the lady in Central Park.
And
she was her. She was her.
So if he hadn't had his camera, with all the credentials and being the Bird Watching Association president he was, if he hadn't had that camera.
But your credentials don't mean anything, Herb.
Nothing.
I should be able to just be without my degrees or whatever, without you doing what you do. She absolutely knew what she was doing because she could have said there was a man. She made it very clear to say an African-American man, and I feel scared and this, that, and the third. She knew exactly the power of her fake tears as she choked out that dog.
Yeah.
Then they gave her the dog back too.
Yeah. The folks came and got that dog.
And then they gave her the dog back. She got that dog back now.
She got the dog back? Oh,
she has the dog back. They said they examined the dog. The dog didn't have any issues, and so they see no reason to keep the dog from her. Okay. And somebody's going to hire her. She going to bounce back. She going to get another job. Yeah. She might not call the police on anybody like that again, but she going to get another job. She will live to tell the fake story again.
Oh, yeah. It's like that lady who was the district attorney in the Central Park Five. Exonerated Five. And how she, has lived her life after that, And so, your story, it needs to pierce. Your narrative needs to pierce because I'm sure you saw the video or you heard about it a few years ago when the 12-year-old or 13-year-old black girl was in class and the resource officer came to get her out and like body slammed her over a desk. And and so, you know, these things exist in so many areas. And it's that abuse of power, that feeling like you're in power and you can do these things. And then, like you said, you know, you were most likely being looked at as an at-risk youth who they probably felt was on the fringe at any point in time of going left. And that was for them, the confirmation of what they already felt existed. And all it took.
Forget all the great stuff that you've done.
Yeah, forget everything.
It's like it took all those years of doing that stuff and one phone call to erase
one phone call and some tears. And that, you know, and there's so many people that we know, that we work with, that have narratives like that, experiences like that.
Yep.
And, like I tell people, I've had the cops pull a gun on me before. I was like, I think I was like 19 or 20, going to cash my check from work. And I had on a neon green, a neon orange YMCA shirt. I was a day camp counselor at the YMCA. Me and this guy are rushing on our lunch break to cash our check and come back. This is like the year 2000 maybe. And they pull us over. And me instinctively, because I thought one cop got out, two got out. So I look over my passenger side shoulder. And when I knew it, it was guns drawn, like, stop moving, stop moving. And I'm like, and they asked if we were in a gang, you know, like with our neon orange YMCA shirts on. And they gave me and me both a $10 seatbelt ticket apiece. And was like, y'all stay out of trouble. After all the commotion, like, look, we got to get back to work, you know. And and that's just one story. And that's the thing, like, it's just one story. And it exists in so many areas and so many spots that are blind or that people choose to not see. And so, yeah, conversations like this are important because we think it's so far from us, and it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's us. Or like, or people look at history and it's like, well, this happened such and such long ago, and this, that, and the third. And it's like, yo, that happened to my mama. It happened to my grandma who I grew up with. Like, and so, you know, it's important to have these conversations and what's going on right now to lead into this stuff, because you can't go around it. You got to talk through it. You got to converse through it. And everybody's not going to see it. But it's not for the ones who refuse to see it and to be willfully ignorant. It's the ones who, you know, a lot of people are looking to be allies and to figure out how. And it's like, hearing this stuff is a part of it because it's closer to you than what you think it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's important. Like, you sharing that, you got to think about it. LA in the 90s, with everything that was going on at an all-white school, you know, I guess being a counselor, like, part of my mind is that empathy piece of it is like put myself in the actual moment when it was happening. Not right now looking back on it and saying, oh man, but it's like, go back then. OJ running.
Yep.
Rodney King. Riots. You got, you know, all these things happening at certain times. The way hip hop music was then, and calling out police brutality, especially on the West Coast.
Yep.
And I mean, coming off, you know, crack epidemic and what was happening with, you know, policing and sentencing and things of that nature. You gotta go back to then. And here you are doing everything possible to just be, look, I'm chill, I'm good. And all that to say, in one moment, one person's tears, say, now we're gonna do you a favor though, just stay out of trouble and it won't go on your record permanently. It's like, and then it's like, but we're doing you a favor.
Yep.
Like, so.
I don't know. I'm coming up on my 25th anniversary high school, and you would never guess it by looking at me, but you know, graduated high school like 25 years ago. And I may or may not make an effort next time I go to California to sit down and have I really do kind of want to hear what her thoughts were that day. I wonder if she regrets it.
Mm.
But also I think it's important that she knows, because she is still teaching at that school.
Yeah.
I think it is important to know how it affected me, so she may think twice about how she treats the next students. I posted the other day that there are some racist folks that need to retire. She would be one of those folks that I think it's time for her to acknowledge it and let it go.
And let it go.
Because I would hate to hear that she has done this to other students. And if it affects them halfway the way it affected me, it's absolutely unfair.
Yeah.
It's absolutely unfair.
Yeah. Well, I say go in there and kick in the door. Watch yourself. You want to be like, hey, watch yourself, and then walk out.
They were ready. There were these ideas of who I was and what I did, and I'm thinking, I don't even remember getting into a fight in high school or junior high. I was like, I knew everybody. I was like,
yeah. Hey, watch yourself.
Right.
Walk out. Well, man, this has been good for the soul. I think.
Yeah, it definitely has.
You know, and you were supposed to have been a guest like the second episode.
But I'm glad it happened now. So look what we can talk about.
Yeah, and we talked to Morgan then, and Morgan was excellent.
Yes.
And so yeah. So I saw a meme. I don't have a one gotta go, because sometimes I do that, but the conversations the last 2 weeks, it's like you're trying to really give out too many laughs right now. But it's not a one gotta go, but it's a meme I saw. Mm-hmm. If 2020 was a food, what would it be?
Oh, sorry. What did you say?
If 2020 was a food, what would it be?
If 2020 was the flu?
Was a food.
Food?
Yeah.
Chitlins.
Chitlins. Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Chitlins.
Chitlins are like maybe some like.
You know, some people love chitlins and some people are absolutely repulsed by it. And I feel like that's exactly the climate right now. Some people are skipping along the street like nothing happened, and some are just literally gagging.
Yeah, some people got the hot sauce and the ketchup.
Right. Ketchup.
Some people like.
I never heard that you ate chitlins with ketchup.
Man, growing up, I did see ketchup, mustard, hot sauce, scrambled eggs. I'm like, you can decorate this how you want to. Keep it.
Oh, that's new to me.
Don't eat chitterlings or chitlins. But yeah, that sounds about right. And man, Sharifa, you know, you my homie, you my friend. I love you. I'm glad you did this with me. And I can't wait to see you again. I can't wait to be in the same space with my people,
man.
With my
Listen,
people.
when we kick it again though, this time when we play spades, I don't want you, if we're gonna be partners, you cannot renege. Okay? Because like
this time
listen, I'll talk over the board and all that stuff, but I need you. If we're gonna ever be partners again, I'm gonna need you to master the game so that we can come out.
Hold on. Now, let's get one thing straight. I am the best spades player, you know. One. No reneging. And if I do renege, it's gonna be so slick you won't even know it took place. But man, yes, some spades, some pluck, some bid wits. I am here for all of things. And yeah, I can't wait to see y'all again. I mean, I saw Chris today on Zoom, and it was like, man, just it was good to see faces, man. It's good to see faces that people.
It is. I miss y'all, but I want us to all just be super safe so that we can see each other. So I'm doing my part. I'm wearing a mask and I'm staying at home 90% of the time. So that's the only way we're gonna be healthy and get back together.
Same way. So we're looking at the Boys and Girls Club is open, and we're like, how do we navigate that? Because Dakota, she needs interaction.
Yeah.
It's like you just don't know. I mean, it's so uncertain, but because at some point, folks gonna be going back to work, and it's gonna push you out there. But either way, we'll manage that when we get to it. You've been an awesome guest, but you can't help but be because you're awesome. So,
Thank
enjoy.
you, Her. I appreciate you giving me an opportunity to talk.
Off the shirt.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, let us see the
You
shirt.
said what?
Go off the shirt.
My shirt?
Yeah, that's dope, man.
Oh, so my shirt came from African Embroidery. And it just, unfortunately has the names of people who have been killed. So it's Freddie Gray, Eric Garner, Sandra Bland, Trayvon Martin, Philando Castillo. So these names are on the shirt. Listen, there were some names that I recognized, and there's some names I didn't recognize, which is even more heartbreaking.
Yeah.
But
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whew, we're gonna leave that there. That needs a stick.
Homie.
That needs a stick.
Yeah.
This is another episode of Let's Talk About It, Student Council with Friends. I am Herb. That is the homie Sharifa. Student counseling was still open. SNDP, they're still open. We're still trying to meet student needs. And y'all watch this, y'all share it. This is not just for UAB students, man. This is for anybody can benefit from this. So we appreciate you all. Be blessed. Have a good one.